Hi everyone, and welcome to what I would call lesson 2.5. I think I jumped the gun last time when I went into metal warm-up exercises and stuff like that. What I should have done was talk about the way that I use my hands and feet with ergonomics, because that was really the big topics that I talked about last time, being comfortable and playing smart, to avoid injury. So what I didn't talk about was the way I hold my sticks and the way I play my pedals. So I'm going to cover that right now. For years and years, going back to when I was a kid, and I was, biggest Neil Peart fan there was, and I wanted to learn everything. But what I was doing wrong, and then luckily my teacher sort of helped me get out of the bad habit, was holding my sticks. So I'd be doing all these crazy fast rolls, like playing natural science, which is super fast. But I was using my wrists all the time, and I wasn't aware of my motion. Or actually, I think I was using my arms a lot, because when you have toms all over the place, and you're a crazy kid, you're just going for it. So that was me. So of course, I hurt my wrists a lot, I hurt my arms a lot, I hurt my back, something awful. I mean, think about it. Being a 17-year-old kid going to a chiropractor because you have to. I was in bad shape. Now, the bad habits I had with my hands sort of crept into adulthood, like I never really got out of them. So even in my 20s and 30s, I was still using my wrists a little bit too much, and I wasn't incorporating the whole arm, your forearms and your biceps, being able to feel it. Now, mind you, I don't have the quickest hands in the world, but what I'm trying to do is have the kind of hands that deliver power and keep stamina. So one thing I can say is I'm not playing 30-second notes at 190 BPMs or even faster. I mean, I can hold my own, but I'm not doing that for long periods of time. However, when I am playing fast and hard, especially in the metal band I play in, you hear it. Like I'm trying my best to get every note out there, even when I'm doing blast beats, because that's probably the hardest thing. Like doing the typical the bomb blast, which is I do it with my right hand, so I'm keeping the 16th notes going, and my left is doing the 8ths. But anyway, getting back to the subject. Your wrists and your forearms and your biceps, from what I've learned through time and through error, and also from Dave Weckl, they need to work in coordination with each other. So I've learned from watching Dave Weckl's Evolution series, and he has a whole bunch of videos you can find on YouTube about especially even ergonomics, and what he learned from Freddy Krueger, and what he learned about the Moeller technique, which is really where it all begins. And the key is to make sure that your arms or your body doesn't do all the work, like let your stick do some of the work. And I'm going to demonstrate it. And you've probably seen so many videos on Moeller that are probably more geared towards playing fast or playing more efficient, that I haven't mastered or haven't gotten into. I'm just really doing the basics, and I'm using the Moeller technique mainly for power, okay, and not wearing myself down, because with the bands I play in, it's mostly, heavy duty. My dynamics come into play, of course, but a lot of times it's just heavy playing. All right, so I have a pad on my snare drum so that they don't play too loud. But essentially, you know from all the other videos out there that the Moeller technique is really the whipping motion of your arm. Okay, so the position starts here, you're bringing your arm up, and you're whipping the stick down, and with that motion you're getting a rebound. So you essentially can have a double stroke with a Moeller, when you're doing it right. So you'd be doing mistake there. But if I were to do it correctly, and I'm going to try it now, you can get 2 strokes out of it, if you do it right. Do I use it for that? Not really. I mean, the doubles that I do, mostly in the music that I play, are for ghost notes, or if I'm doing hertas, or is it pronounced hertas? But with that, I am using the molar technique, but I'm also letting the stick rebound correctly and letting my fingers do the rest of the work. I'm not really moving the stick with my fingers. Instead, I'm controlling where the stick vibrates or catches in my own hand. And here's an example. So you notice my hand is really just doing 1 stroke, and I'm letting the stick do the rest and letting my hands catch it. So you can get it kind of fast. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a speed freak, but if I were to do herders or something, it'd be like, and I'm not really putting in too much exertion. Like, you don't see me really killing myself, and that's the whole point of what I'm trying to get across. So the other part of it is how I hold the stick. So when I hold the stick, I'm using the German grip, first of all. And with German grip, as you see, your palms are down and your wrist is essentially doing the work. But from the way I play, I'm letting my forearm actually control a lot of what's going on with my hand, and as well as my bicep. So when I'm putting in the power, like that's a normal stroke or a powerful stroke for me. Like that, that's almost at full speed. But so it's my whole arm. It's the whipping motion, but, and I'm going to go slower. You can look at my hand. It's not really holding the stick very tight, and that's the whole point here. The harder you hold your stick, the more pain you will get later on. Like your forearms will start hurting, but the first thing that's going to go are your wrists. And more importantly, your hand is going to feel a lot of tension. I notice that if I'm sweating a lot while I'm playing and I'm trying or I'm fighting to keep my stick in my hand, right after I'm done, my hand hurts. Or it starts to seize up, or it starts to numb up, which is even worse. So, like I said, the way I get around it is doing my best to let the stick do a lot of the work, hold it loosely, like I'm going to do with my right hand. But if you see my right hand, the way I'm moving the stick, it's going in my index finger, but my index finger really isn't holding the stick. My thumb's not holding the stick either. It's sort of just bouncing back and forth in the inside of my hand. Okay? When you're going faster and when you're doing press rolls and things like that, you will have a tendency, or I'll have the tendency, for my thumb and my index finger to wrap around the stick a little bit. But the end of my finger really is off the stick. So if you can see it from this angle, that's really all I'm doing. If I'm going faster, like that, I am gripping a little bit, but I'm not like gripping the whole thing with my hand, which is probably the worst thing you can do. The more freely your stick floats in your hand, the less pain you will get in the end. It goes back to what I was saying earlier or in the previous videos about being comfortable and relaxed. So if I'm going to I'll do a simple roll. And you're going to see I'm not putting too much effort into it. Now that's something that's not too fast, but the point is I could do that for like 20 minutes, a half hour, and be fine. Like, not really break a sweat, not feeling any pain. I would suggest doing simple exercises like what I just did, which is really just eighths or 16th notes with accents in triplets, with a metronome, and then start at a reasonable pace, like 100 BPMs, and then work your way up slowly. Don't kill yourself, and then find that comfortable speed where you can just do that for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, not hours. That's crazy, but you get my point. Just get to where you could easily do a simple pattern like that for 20 minutes, and that'll tell you right there and then if the way you're holding your stick is comfortable. If your hands don't hurt, then you've won. If you feel a little burn in your forearms, that should happen. Like when I'm playing, or if I'm doing an exercise like that for a long time, I start feeling a little bit of tightness in my forearms and in my biceps. But that's a good thing. Very rarely have I ever felt any kind of pain in my wrists. I'm very lucky for that. And that's essentially why I'm trying to push this on, or that's mainly why I'm trying to explain it and pass it on. Okay, so just to repeat it all, your hands never grip your sticks tightly with any of your fingers. Like a lot of players, especially Dave Weckl, they will make the fulcrum on their actual middle fingers, where the index fingers are really just a guide for the stick. But my technique, or whatever I'm doing with my hands, is really a play on that, where I'm trying to let the stick, again, just bounce in my hands, vibrate, not holding tight. So again, no pain. And again, to get power, I'm holding the stick very gently, and then even with the strongest stroke I could make, like if I'm coming back from here and I'm landing here, my hand isn't wrapped around the stick. I'm letting the stick take all of the shock. And that's another thing that's going to save your wrists. Try not to get too much shock into it. Rim shots, which I do all the time. I play rim shots pretty much every song for everything I do in my metal band, Pierce. So everything's a rim shot. So there's a lot of punishment that my wrist could be getting. Whenever my sticks go, if you can see, they go right about here, where the rim actually meets the stick, and it's usually where I just split them. So again, bring all your power down to the drum, let your arm do all the work. Once you get to the drum, do not hold your stick tight. Let the stick do all the work. And if you're doing something fast, by having a loose grip and letting the stick do the work, you're going to get the proper rebound to do things. Not putting so much effort into really fast passages, just like doubles, which I was talking about. Like when I'm doing a double stroke, I'm not really putting any effort into it. And again, I don't do it much. I just do it as ghost notes or heritas, and not feeling the fatigue. So that's really the main point I wanted to drive home is relax your hand, let your arms or your forearms and your biceps do all the work, let that feel the pain, and never let your wrists suffer, and never hold your sticks too tight. And that really about does it for hands. Now for feet, I approach the pedals a little bit differently. Now right now I'm using Tama Speed Cobras, the 910s. So with these pedals you can adjust them to anything you could think of to make them comfortable. From the axle to the beater height to the actual plate height, it's infinite. Mine are pretty simple. As you can see, my beaters are about 45 degrees, I guess, from the head, which is pretty standard. And I keep the actual pedals not too high, not too low. And the reason is, when I play heel up, and that's, I guess what I'm doing is a play upon heel up. I notice a lot of players on YouTube, or when I watch videos of guys who play heel up, that they really have their heels up. To me, that would make sense if you were sitting really high and you're on your tippy toes are hitting your pedals. But when I'm like this and I have the ball of my foot up and I have my heels way up, my calves are hurting right now. My shin's doing nothing and my calves are hurting. So the way I play my pedals is, first of all, I sit where my whole butt is on the actual chair and keep myself balanced. I don't sit too high. You know, I sit with my legs at a certain angle. They're slightly lower than my hips. And with the long boards I'm playing, and it would apply to short boards because I play short boards on another drum set I have. But with these pedals, long boards, I really just play my pedals like I would play, well, that feel natural to me. I mean, I'm trying to find the best words for it, but I'm trying to play where the stroke feels natural to me. So when I'm hitting the bass drum, and I'm gonna muffle it a little so. When I'm playing, you can see my foot. That's a normal stroke for me, where my heel is coming up from the pedal, but it's not way up. And yes, sometimes there may be times where my heel might bounce off the rug or bounce off the end of the pedal, but it just feels like a natural motion to me. And when I'm playing really fast, really fast passages, that's about as high as my heel goes. And the ball of my foot will come further down on the pedal, but it's still like a natural motion to me. The point is, if you're keeping your legs up, or you're trying to keep your toes to be on the end of the pedals to play really fast, but while your legs are up, your calves are burning. And there's a good chance you're going to feel some fatigue, or at least I do. So that's why I approach my stroke just using my full leg. My foot comes down, and my foot actually just moves with the pedal. I'm playing this softly as I can, but that's really all I'm doing. And if I were to do something really fast, and I'm just going to demonstrate that now, like a fast run, then again I'm going to use my toes, or I'm going to use the ball of my foot, but not lift my foot too much. See, I'm sort of like dancing on the pedals, if that makes sense. Well, if you've seen the videos with Neil Peart talking about Freddie Gruber's teaching, that's exactly what he had him do, dancing on the pedals. So my feet are moving on the pedals when I'm doing those fast motions, and that's really just to avoid fatigue, or I'm sort of like sliding on the pedal. But I guess it's to avoid repetitive motion and the strain that comes with it. So I'll demonstrate it once again. This is just like a quick run. So you saw my legs were doing all the action, but my ankles were really just going with the flow. And that's really I guess at the heart of my technique is I don't put too much strain on any part of my leg when I'm playing. It's coming from my hips, it's coming from my thighs, it's coming from my calves, and even my shins. I mean, the shins are in on it too. And letting my ankle go. But it's not ankle technique, which I'm sure you've seen on a lot of other videos, I believe from Martin and a couple other guys. Mine is really using my whole leg, old old school metal style, but my leg is comfortable, and I think that's the point I'm trying to make, that I'm not perched on the pedals, my foot's relaxed on the pedals, and my leg is coming down and just doing the work. But the ball of my foot is actually what's in contact with the pedal. It might look like my heel is in contact with the pedal, but it is not. The ball of my foot is doing all the work. In fact, for speedy things, I think the best thing is to keep the ball of the foot always on the pedal, like never lifting off. Now, I'm going to talk about one of my bad habits on my pedal, and that is I'm a beater barrier. I always bury the beater. Not the best thing in the world. I mean, proper technique is to let the actual beater do all the work and get some rebound. Sometimes when I'm concentrating, I can do that. Sometimes on really fast passages where I have to play a fast passage for a long time, I do my best to get as much rebound as I can off the head. And I keep my bass drum heads at a reasonable tension. If you're using a tune bot, I tune the batter head at 66, which is kind of loose when you think of it. But it's good for me. If it's too tight, when I'm burying the beater, of course, you're going to get bouncy. And I can't seem to get out of that habit. All right, so that's the foot technique that I've been talking about, and the hand technique that I talked about. And I hope you enjoyed this video and come back for more. Thank you very much.